Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel TechBlog 66. Today, we are diving into a gripping and intense historical drama, The Bunker, released in 1981. This film takes us deep into one of the most dramatic and tense periods in modern history, portraying the final days of a collapsing regime during World War II. If you enjoy character-driven historical films filled with psychological tension and powerful performances, then this movie deserves your attention. Before we begin, this review is completely spoiler-light and monetization-safe, so you can sit back and enjoy a thoughtful breakdown of the film's themes, performances, and overall impact. Overview of the film. The Bunker is a historical war drama that focuses on the final days of Adolf Hitler and his inner circle as they remain inside a heavily fortified underground shelter in Berlin during the closing chapter of World War II. The story is based on historical accounts and aims to provide a dramatic portrayal of the tension, fear, denial, and desperation that define those last moments. The film was directed by George Schaefer and features an unforgettable performance by Anthony Hopkins in the central role. Rather than showing large-scale battlefield action, the movie focuses almost entirely on what happens inside the bunker, making it more of a psychological drama than a traditional war film. Setting and atmosphere. One of the most striking elements of this movie is its atmosphere. The bunker itself becomes a character. Dark corridors, narrow rooms, dim lighting, and constant tension create a claustrophobic feeling that stays with you throughout the film. You truly feel trapped along with the characters. The outside world is barely seen, but it is constantly felt. The sound of distant artillery, the knowledge that enemy forces are closing in, and the growing sense of hopelessness create a powerful emotional backdrop. This limited setting actually strengthens the film, because it forces viewers to focus on the atmosphere is not loud or explosive, it is heavy and tense. Every conversation feels important. Every decision feels loaded with consequence. Anthony Hopkins' performance. The highlight of the film is undoubtedly Anthony Hopkins. His portrayal of Hitler is not exaggerated or theatrical. Instead, it is restrained, controlled, and deeply unsettling. Hopkins focuses on the psychological state of a leader facing inevitable defeat. What makes his performance so compelling is the subtlety. There are moments of calm reflection, sudden bursts of frustration, and long stretches of denial. He does not play the role as a simple villain, instead, he portrays a human being consumed by his own ideology and disconnected from reality. It is important to remember that the film does not glorify its subject. Rather, it attempts to present a dramatic interpretation of historical events and the mental state of those involved. Hopkins' performance adds depth to the story, showing how power, pride, and rigid beliefs can lead to tragic outcomes. Supporting cast and characters. While Hopkins carries the film, the supporting cast also deserves recognition. The officers, aides, and loyal followers inside the bunker each represent different reactions to the collapsing situation. Some remain loyal to the very end. Others begin to question the decisions being made. A few quietly accept the inevitable. The interactions between these characters create much of the drama. Since there is very little physical action, the tension comes from conversations, arguments, and moments of realization. These exchanges feel realistic and grounded, which adds to the film's impact. The film also explores the emotional weight carried by those closest to the leader. We see fear, confusion, and moral conflict. These human reactions help the audience understand the psychological pressure inside the bunker without turning the story into spectacle. Themes and messages. One of the central themes of the bunker is denial. As the situation outside grows worse, the leadership inside the bunker struggles to accept reality. Plans are discussed that seem increasingly disconnected from what is actually happening. Hope becomes fragile and unrealistic. Another important theme is loyalty. The film shows how loyalty can be both powerful and dangerous. Some characters remain loyal out of belief. Others stay out of fear or duty. The movie quietly asks the question, at what point should loyalty give way to moral responsibility? The theme of isolation is also very strong. The bunker physically separates its occupants from the outside world. This physical isolation mirrors emotional and psychological isolation. The leadership becomes cut off from truth, from reality, and from the consequences of their decisions. Finally, the film highlights the human cost of extreme ideology. Without showing large battle scenes, it still communicates the tragic consequences of rigid thinking and unchecked authority. Historical context. Although this is a dramatized film, it is rooted in historical events from the final days of World War II in Berlin. By focusing on the bunker, the movie narrows its lens to a specific and intense moment in time. This choice allows for a more personal and intimate portrayal of history. It is important to view this film as a dramatic interpretation rather than a documentary. It does not attempt to provide a complete history of the war. Instead, it zooms in on a critical chapter and examines it through the lens of character study. For viewers who enjoy history, this film can serve as a starting point for further reading and exploration about that period. Direction and storytelling style. Director George Schaefer takes a measured and deliberate approach. The pacing is steady, allowing scenes to breathe. There are no rushed sequences or flashy camera movements. Instead, the storytelling relies on dialogue and performance. The camera often lingers on faces, capturing subtle expressions and emotional shifts. This style reinforces the psychological focus of the film. The bunker's limited space is used effectively, turning confined rooms into stages for intense drama. The film feels theatrical at times, which makes sense given its strong focus on dialogue. However, this does not weaken it. In fact, the controlled direction helps maintain a serious and respectful tone throughout. Cinematography and production design. The production design plays a crucial role in creating authenticity. The bunker is depicted as stark, functional, and oppressive. There is no glamour, no comfort. The setting reflects the bleakness of the situation. The lighting is subdued, often casting shadows across the characters' faces. This visual choice enhances the feeling of uncertainty and decline. The muted color palette also contributes to the somber tone. Even though most of the film takes place indoors, it never feels visually boring. The careful arrangement of scenes keeps the environment dynamic and engaging. Emotional impact. The bunker is not an easy watch, but it is a thoughtful one. The emotional impact comes from tension rather than action. As viewers, we know the historical outcome, yet the film still manages to create suspense through character reactions and personal decisions. There is a sense of inevitability that builds throughout the story. The closer the outside forces get, the more intense the internal struggles become. The film invites viewers to reflect on leadership, responsibility, and the consequences of absolute power. Rather than focusing on spectacle, it emphasizes introspection. That is what makes it stand out among many war films. Strengths of the film. The strongest aspect of the movie is its performances, especially Anthony Hopkins. His nuanced portrayal elevates the entire film. Another strength is the focused storytelling. By limiting the setting, the film avoids distractions and maintains a consistent tone. The historical setting adds depth and seriousness, making the story feel significant and weighty. Weaknesses. Some viewers may find the pacing slow, especially if they are expecting traditional war action. Since most of the film consists of conversations and confined scenes, it demands patience. However, if you appreciate character-driven drama, this slower pace will likely feel intentional and meaningful. Final thoughts. In conclusion, The Bunker is a powerful historical drama that explores the psychological collapse of leadership during one of the most intense periods in modern history. Directed by George Schaefer and led by a remarkable performance from Anthony Hopkins, the film offers a serious and introspective look at the final days inside a hidden command center. It is not about glorifying history, but about understanding the human emotions and decisions behind it. The film reminds us that leadership carries immense responsibility, and that denial and rigid ideology can have devastating consequences. If you enjoy historical dramas that focus on psychology, dialogue, and performance rather than large-scale action, this movie is definitely worth watching. Thank you for watching this review on TechBlog 66. If you enjoyed this breakdown, please like, share, and subscribe for more classic and thought-provoking movie reviews. This movie is available on YouTube free.